The following program deals with controversial subjects. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation. The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
Tonight on This Week in Redacted.
In this haunting snapshot, what's hiding in the darkness? People begin questioning their sanity post-pandemic, but what has really changed? An ancient enigma. How could the mysterious Nazca lines be made by ancient people? Hiding in plain sight, unearthing the monster inside McCamey Manor. And finally, it's a deceptively simple question. What have you seen? All this and more with your hosts Chris Redacted and Ryan Redacted.
Hey there, welcome back everyone to This Week in Redacted. I am Ryan Redacted, and this is the weekly podcast where we examine the top abnormal news articles as presented by Reddit. Now, what I realize is we haven't actually explained how we rank any of these, and that's largely been because it's been in flux, and we're starting to dial that in now that we're a little bit closer to having a structured format. But essentially what we've done is we've put together a couple really big categories, and we started off with 5. And those categories would be things like aliens and UFOs would be in one specific category. We would have things like cryptids, which has been, Bigfoot, humanoid encounters, things like that in another bin. Traditionally we've had true crime, but we're going to be pruning that out of the mix starting next week, I think. And the other bins have been conspiracy and, of course, paranormal. And so the idea is that we basically cover the full breadth of the abnormal news by putting them into the bins. And if you have a suggestion for a subreddit that you want us to take a look at, please drop it in our comments and we will add it. And we're excited to add it, actually. So, so welcome to this episode. As always, with me is Chris Redacted. How are you doing, Chris?
It's good to be back another week. I really enjoy how you explain how we get the information and we're just not pulling it out of our arses. So that's pretty good. I really enjoy that. This week's going to be interesting. It hasn't been that popular either. It's not like I'm surprised they didn't pick that the Colombian UFO on the plane. That they didn't pick that, but
I'm surprised too. You know what? In general, I'm actually surprised about this week and October as a whole, because there's been I would expect October and Halloween to drive people's interest in ghosts and paranormal to the point
there
where
wasn't that many.
There's nothing. There's hardly anything. There's been photos, and then if you go on, YouTube, which we're on YouTube, by the way, like and subscribe if you haven't already. But Bizarre Bub and all the usual suspects have been churning out content that's really not it doesn't feel like October really impacts the way that people share ghost stories. That they claim is real.
The ghost post is interesting too, that I was like, okay, this is interesting. As you were saying, Halloween should be popping, that it should be so filled with ghosts, people sharing the ghost stories. I mean, we're not quite there yet. I mean, it's this coming Tuesday, so it can start populating. People can start sharing their ghost stories. Every Halloween I listen to Ghost to Coast on a Coast to Coast AM. I love listening to that, or I'll go back listen to also Art Bell's old from the 90s Ghost to Ghost. So that's what I always look forward to in Halloween. I'm not gonna lie, I also miss trick or treating. That's the one thing I always miss about that. But I'm super surprised that it's not as popular as I anticipated it to be.
I look forward for Halloween. So Halloween's absolutely my favorite holiday out of all the holidays. I love seeing creative costumes. I always wish that I would be able to make a creative costume. I really haven't been able to, I think. At some point, I'm
It,
gonna have to
it,
fix that.
my mom used to have a sewing factory, so she would help me out with making costumes. Any ideas I had, like I think the last time, a few years ago, I was a garden gnome,
Okay.
so I thought that was really cool, you know. But yeah, I like Halloween. It's like one of my favorite. I don't really celebrate it that much, but it's definitely one of my favorite. I do enjoy the costumes.
Yeah, costumes and Thriller. I always put on Thriller every single year just because habits. Night of the Living Dead. I always watch Night of the Living Dead. Those are the
The
things that I do.
classics.
Yeah, gotta do them. But yeah, really surprised that we haven't had like an overwhelming amount of like just random ass ghost pictures, and the ones that have been out there, like, I mean, not particularly great. I think not a lot of convincing stuff. There's a lot of things that really just look like it's people trying too hard to me.
I find it funny that I think the ghost community is worse than the alien fake community. You know, like I think they're the ghosts from the TikTok, and I'm just going purely on TikTok. I think that community in making the fake videos are worse than the alien fake videos.
It's easier to do. I think it's easier to fake. It's easier to do something that's convincing to a lot of people. I think they get a better reaction off of the paranormal stuff. To be perfectly honest, they don't even need After Effects. You know, they just need like some
just string.
string. Yeah, and they're like done. You know.
I mean, that's what I said I'm gonna do. You know, do string. Were we gonna try to set it up like one of us try to do it to see if I could recreate some of the stuff that they're showing?
Yeah, look, I'm telling you, as soon as we get like the actual format and stuff dialed in, like we'll have like a little bit of playtime with setting up some little experiments just to see how they go. Which is funny because I'm supposed to be the skeptic, you're supposed to be the believer,
And it's kind
and
of the other way around right now.
but here's the deal, right? Because here's the thing, right? When you look at other entertainment shows that are approaching these kinds of topics, what ends up happening is when they have a skeptic and they have a believer, the whole thing is about their interaction and being comedic and just kind of like the polar opposite, right? They're not actually looking for truth. And I think like with us, I think we're both concerned with what the truth is of a situation. And I think it's really obvious now that we've started to go through the motions for like a couple months with this content that there's a lot of bad actors in here that are really putting bad content out there.
The TikTokers are really bad at doing the acting. It's just like, oh, look, babe, there's a ghost here, babe, there's a ghost. And it's just that over and over again. It just seems like they're chasing clout and views and subscribers, you know, like I think that's what it's coming down to. But yeah, you are right. I think we are, our last couple videos that we've been reviewing, we like try to break it down, and both of us are on that mindset. Like, I was like, well, do you think it's real? Like, I don't, like, we're both kind of agreeing no. Like, even though, yeah, like I'm the super believer, but half the time I don't believe. Like, they're just so bad that I was like, I can't even use this as actual evidence. Be like, look, this is my data. This is what I have. These are all the videos. These are all the articles. And I can't use any of this to prove my point or my belief system. And I think that's what I'm looking for, right? That's what I'm really trying to reach. You know, I want this scientific data to be there to present to people, be like, have you ever seen this video? There's a couple videos online that are out there, you know, and they're always brought up over and over again. But everything else is just garbage. And I think that's what we're doing. Like, we're both looking into it, trying to prove it, trying to disprove it. And there isn't that many. And I think that's what I think intrigues me the most about it, that I'm like, half the stuff is fake. I want to see a solid stuff. I want to be scared. I want to be worried. I don't really want to sleep well when I want to watch a ghost video or a demon video or poltergeist video, like where it disturbs me is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. Like again, I don't believe in demons. I don't believe in like paranormal, supernatural, you know, stuff of that nature. I think it's fascinating. I want to see something convincing. And I think the real issue right now for us, and especially, you know, going through this the top Reddit posts, is the signal to noise ratio is just terrible, right? Like, you have all these people that are like throwing in very convincing fakes, and the very convincing fakes just devalue everything around it, because, you know, at that point, it's, I call it peeing in the pool. right? You have someone who's peeing in the pool.
We're like shitting in the pool. That's what it really
Yeah,
is.
it's so bad. So that's the thing is like if anyone is watching this, and we will cut this up a little bit so that we can have it an official ask. If you find something that's convincing, if you find something that you genuinely think is authentic and real, please send it our way. Add a comment on our YouTube channel. You can reach us at redacted at thisweekinredacted.com, and we'll put that in the description of the video so that people can, email. But we want to see something that looks convincing. And I think we've been doing this for like 2 months now. And I have only seen one thing that has been slightly convincing, and I think we're both in agreement. It was that bizarre bub video with the dog.
Yeah, the dog at
barking
the church.
stuff.
At night. I think it was a church, right?
Yeah, and that could have easily been a squatter hiding out in the corner somewhere. And then, so that's still not like super convincing, but at the very least, it was more convincing than just some random door that looks like it was been pulled by a string. So please send us videos that you think are legitimate, because at this point it's turning into a debunking channel, and that's not the intent, right? Like, we didn't start off
No.
with this. It was like
It's like we're gonna try to go into some videos and be like, have you ever seen the Corpus Christi ghost video? Like, that one's a really good one that I think is like believable, but it's from the 90s. It's super pixelated. It's like multiple parts. I'll link it to you so you can watch and then you can break down. But that one's really convincing. It's just some two construction workers at some abandoned building, and I don't know if they're like overlooking the construction site at night, and that's what they're doing, because apparently people do rob the copper and material and stuff like that. So I think that's what they're there, and they experience a lot of paranormal stuff, and it's a solid one. It's from like the early 90s.
Yeah, let's get that master list together, of like, videos. And I think what we could probably do is put together some more lengthy like side videos that are a little more in depth about like these particular topics. I think that's one thing that we're missing, is sort of like a video essay aspect to what we're doing. Right now we're just kind of reading the news and getting familiar with like what the natural cadence of some of these Reddits are. There's the way that I'm thinking about it in my head. And we had that big burst of like all the alien activity that was like gold for a while, but also overwhelming a lot of the natural sort of like, posts that are going on. And
It's the standard post that people would be sharing, be like, hey, this is what I countered, what do you think, versus just Mexican aliens exposed. Like, we just got bombarded with that over and over again, and now that's like an afterthought.
Yeah,
it's like people are now making fun of it. I mean, the whole DNA breakdown, like, it was just, I don't know enough of it, but it felt so bad, like it just done so wrong. And did you watch that video of them, like how they broke it down and how interested the scientists seemed about it? And it just
describe it. Let me in on the secret here.
All right, so they released footage of it, of them taking DNA samples of it. I don't know where it was at that they did this, but they did break it down, and they repeated the same thing, that it has the same molecular compound, it's carbon based type of thing. But it's the one that didn't have the head. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, they broke it down, but no one could describe like what they found, and I think it's doing nothing for it. I think it's just making it even worse. It's becoming on that level of that infamous UFO surgery autopsy, that the special that was on Fox, the alien autopsy. Like, it's going on that caliber.
Oh, I love that.
Like, it's just so bad. It's great. I love it. Like, but that alien autopsy, if you've never seen it, you have to see it. It is comedy gold. It's just, and I'm a super believer, but that is just, come on. Like,
the modern alien autopsy, not the classic Fox special, which was not amazing. Completely produced, but incredible.
Oh my god, it was done so well, but it's so bad it's great.
Yeah,
I mean, wasn't it like a special? Like, it was like world premiere, and it, oh my god, like they had a host for it, and it was amazing. They don't do things like that anymore. Have you noticed that?
I have actually. Yeah, I mean, so one, I mean, the face of television has changed a lot with streaming. So
Absolutely.
you do see, the William Shatner special, Unsolved Mysteries. Was he doing Unsolved Mysteries? No.
No, it
Oh God,
was
who was it? Can't remember his
he
name.
has his own show though, William Shatner, like the Unknown, I think, or
That's
like
yeah, that's the one I'm thinking about. There is Unsolved Mysteries is back on Netflix, but it's not the same as it was before. And then none of the specials, like I guess Encounters counts, right? Encounters
Encounters
counts
does
as
count. I mean, even the Netflix Unsolved Mystery counts. Like it does have that weird tone, and they're all done the same way, but it doesn't have the classic host, right? Like
yeah.
I can't remember the gentleman that used to do it. Like he was. I'm gonna say he was half the show. Like he sold it so well that it was like I think I was scared of his voice more than I was of the actual thing that was happening in the show, whatever it was, monster, alien, strange abduction, bank robbery, whatever it covered. Like he was just that typecasting for that was just done perfect, and we haven't had that. I think TV has gotten away from that a bit.
Yeah, for sure. And also I think network television was available to everyone. It was just a thing that, you would hear about, like, oh, there's alien special is going to be on after X-Files, and just the word of mouth on that alone was like huge. I remember everyone talking about, oh,
Well, how
it's an
long ago
alien.
was that?
Oh my god, I was a kid, so it was on during X-Files, if I remember correctly. I think it was on after, maybe, or before on Fox.
Dude,
This was
1995, Fact
There
or
you go.
Fiction,
Yeah.
Alien Autopsy. Yeah, but you are right. It was at the height of like the X Files.
Yep. So they had all that. They used to have the Sightings television show on, which I've watched a couple episodes recently and on YouTube, and man, they're still great. They still, I would like to capture the. No one's captured the essence of that Sightings television show, which has
Since
been since it was on, in my opinion.
Oh my God, there's also a comedy version of the Alien Autopsy from 2006. I didn't even know this. I'm gonna have to watch that.
Well, it got debunked pretty
Is that the
fast.
one? Is that the one you're talking about? The comedy one?
No, but that's I don't think I've even seen that one. I want to see that now.
Yeah, 2006, but the 1995, yeah, it got debunked. Like it was masterful. 10 out of 10 would watch again.
All right, well, we have some posts tonight. So one thing that's like really clear for tonight and this week is that it has been a quiet week on the abnormal news front.
It
There's
absolutely is. It's not been pop. The crypto one was. I was like shocked that that's what it was this week.
yeah, and in December we're gonna have to go over and do more in depth on the particular article there. But so let's go through it. So a couple changes for the format this week too. Because we're weeding out the true crime, we're not going to do a top 5. It's going to be top 4. And guess what? Top 4s sound terrible. No one wants to listen to a top 4. Top 3, that's a little bit too thin. So instead, we're just going to go ahead and just do 4 articles. It's not going to be a top 4. It's just these were the top for the particular categories that we pull from. They're not going to be weighted against each other. We're not going to go in order or anything. So let's hop into. Actually, you know what? Why don't we start with the crypto zoology
Let's do that one.
one first? All right. So this one was the really simple question, right? Has anyone ever seen Krampus or a humanoid creature with a similar appearance? So this was asked inside of the Reddit. And did you read some of these responses? So first of all,
Yes,
actually,
I did.
hold on a second.
Oh,
First of all,
okay.
let's start with, have you ever seen a cryptid or anything like this? Personally.
Never seen. I've had something weird happen, but never seen anything. Now, in Latino culture, this is very dominant. It is super dominant. Like the whole chupacabra thing. There's different
Okay.
versions. I don't know what respected Venezuela. This is what happened, right? So very dominant in my culture. Now, I don't know why it's so dominant in Latin America, but it's very common. I've heard this many times from many different people that there's different regions have different, versions of this, and they talk about that in the post. Have you ever seen anything like this?
I have never seen an animal that I didn't know what it was. Just like right off the bat. I had an experience with a boar at Catalina Island when I was in middle school that I didn't realize it was a boar at first. But
It chased you? Did it bite you? Did it?
yeah, a whole bunch. So it was like one of those like week-long camping things, or like a couple
Okay, that
days
sounds
or whatever.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was like in middle school, and a bunch of us snuck out at night and just decided we were gonna go like roam. And sure enough, there was a boar. We got scared, ran our asses back to camp, and that was it. That was no more going
Oh
out at night
man,
after
that
that.
was your version of it.
Yeah. I didn't actually see it, but heard it, and there's no way that it was like Mothman or Krampus or, anything in that area. Okay, so you haven't personally seen anything in Latino culture. It's a very common thing.
No, it's very common. Like when I would go visit my grandma in Mexico, like the kids and all the family members used to say like there used to be, some type of thing like this that would pop up, or folklore in the neighborhood. This is before the chupacabra was a thing, but we would hear like of beings that would like suck out blood, is what it I guess it used to do, or it would like take kids and children. It would say there like el cucuy is what we used to call it, and that it was like some type of demon or being, and like it's kind of hard to believe, but over the years, as I was a kid and I started growing up to adult, I started hearing the true reason why they brought out the chupacabra is pretty much to distract um, the Mexican government and its people because of all the corruption that was going on in Mexico and specifically Latin America. All the drug cartels that started happening, and all the violence and corruption, and how people started finding out that the Mexican government was in cahoots with the cartels and the Contras and everything. So they created this fictional creature and they put it out there to distract the people from what was really going on. And people have been saying that this is what's been happening in all Latin America. And they put these stories out, put these, fictional characters, and try to distract the people. Venezuela is a very effed up place right now, man. Their currency inflation is just ridiculous. And what's one of the best ways? You feed them stories and distract them from what's really going on.
So you went from a cryptid story to now this is just straight up conspiracy.
Absolutely.
All right. All right. I see you. See
But
what you're
but
doing.
tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Like what's the easiest way you could distract a whole group of people in an entire nation, in cities, and it's an easy way to distract them from what's really going on.
Okay, so answer this one, Mr. Smart Guy. What makes this
Man.
different than the alien encounters?
I mean, they're flying, bro.
Oh, they're flying. Yeah, but Mothman flies, right? Like the.
I mean,
the
you're not
devil
wrong.
flies?
I see your logic. I see your counter to like my counter to it. It's you just gotta believe me, bro.
Trust me, bro.
Trust me,
Yeah.
bro. But you're not wrong. Like it's like, what are they? It's like, what are they truly hiding from us? What are they truly trying to distract us from us with all this alien stuff, all this disclosure? It's like, what's going on? What weird rules are they making? Laws that they're making in the middle of the night, right? Like I think recently they did something with that. Like when all of this disclosure was happening, like they voted on some weird stuff, and that's what we really should be paying attention to, but we're not. One of my friends was talking about that, saying that like, all of us are all like lost in the sauce for, the whole UFO thingy, but there's crazy laws being changed, crazy things being done, and none of us know of it because it's all in the middle of the night.
Yeah. I mean, like, what are you supposed to say to the government stuff? It's like the CIA. I saw a meme response to a question earlier this week, which was along the lines of, "What's something that your government does that surprises you?" I think is what it was, and the response was, "Every 20 years they come out and tell you, oh, guess what? You were right. We did actually do that." Like that's just like that's reality, unfortunately. And
Yeah, they're like, yeah, we did that.
Yeah, we did do it 20 years ago. Yeah, you were right all along. Surprise. So, in terms of like what the government is keeping from people, dude, it's all over the place. Like and the thing is, like, you can't even tell if 20 years later if you're gonna have the context for understanding what the thing that they've released, taken off the redacted list, is real information or not. So you can't,
Like, yeah,
it's
it could be another CIA mind control experiment. It could be
yeah.
another CIA time travel experiment. It's like that. Like, we don't know. We'll find out in 20 years if they even decide to let us know.
Yeah, and listen, one of my biggest regrets at this point in my life is that I did not join the CIA just so that I could get drugged out of my mind for 10 years studies and write up a whole bunch of
Time
papers.
travel?
Yeah, about time travel, and then have it released to the public 20 years later. Because, dude, that sounds like the life.
Yeah,
that's like
I messed up, is what you're saying. I should have been a Fed.
absolutely, yeah, that's the path right there. So, like, let's talk about the Venezuela stuff, right? Because I've got it up here. Zoom out a little bit so we can read it. So, first of all, I thought the gold in this one was people's responses. That's what the question. That's why they're bringing up Krampus, I think, is because it's just like, it's more of like an open invitation for people to explain, oh, hey, have I seen this or have I not seen this thing? So you're saying that basically all of this stuff in Venezuela, any of the cryptids, just straight up misinformation. That's what your take is.
I think it is.
Okay. So
I mean, it's like, how long has this been around?
well, I mean, that's the thing, is it's like, I can understand. I think it's more likely to be a conspiracy than it is.
The crazy thing, dude, is the day of Krampus itself, dude, is on my birthday, December 5th. That is awesome.
Oh man. Oh, you're in December too? I didn't know that.
Yeah, but December, baby.
Okay. That explains a lot. I am too.
Dude, yeah, the tale of Krampus from the 6th to 7th century, like, so it's been a tale that's just been around forever.
Yeah, in December, I definitely want to do a Krampus video, like on this, like outside of the podcast. I want to put together just like a highlight, because that's the time to do Krampus, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is right then. So
it's worth its own episode,
Yeah. So what about experiences like this, guys, right? So this is another interesting one, talking about how they saw the Hoof Man, aka Goat Man, aka some kind of skinwalker. I don't know if you saw this one or not, but
no, I didn't read that. That's the super long one.
Yeah, it's fairly involved, fairly large encounter involving stabs and conversations, and just like, I gotta be honest, when I look at something like this, I'm like, I have a hard time believing that that's the encounter, because it is just too involved, and it's just like, it just feels like you're trying too hard at that point to give
Okay,
details.
so I'm gonna tell you something that my girl told me in the beginning when I started being on Reddit, right? I used to live on 4chan before, ages ago, right? And she's like, you should really jump onto Reddit. It's like a more adult version of 4chan, right? Like, it's just a little bit more refined, is I think what she was telling me. So at the time, I was stuck on No Sleep. I love that subreddit, all the stories, this and that. And half of them that would be presented on there were just, at the time, were just creative writers trying to put out their work out there. And she would tell me that, like, I would sit there and I was like, do you think this story is true? Like, do you think this actually happened to somebody on No Sleep, or do you think it's like someone just, messing with us? And she's like, it's just a bunch of creative writers putting up all their work out there, and they want people to read them because they know at some time someone's going to read this, and they'll never get published, they'll never do any great writing, and this is one way they could actually exercise that. And I think most of this stuff is just creative writing, people putting out their talent and writing these complex stories that I'm not a good writer, and when I do read these things, I do eat them up, and I'll sit there and like enjoy the story. But I think this is creative writing. They're great. They're entertaining. They capture an emotion, and they're well done. And that's what I have to agree with her. And I do sound like a skeptic, don't I?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm telling you, man, it's hard not to be like.
Yeah, like it's just I agree with you that I read these and I'm just like, there's no way this could be true. Like I don't believe this. This person is just writing too much things. Most stories that I've heard that people have shared anything with me, they're always short. They're
Mhm.
always quick to the point. They tell me what happened, then the next step, and then the final step, and that's it. Bigfoot stories that people have shared with me, it's like, I went here, this is what happened, I saw it, it went away, I turned around, and I didn't know how to explain it. None of this is like, I was walking up the hill, and then I saw the sunset, this bird talked to me, like, it's none of that. Like, they all end this way too. Like, I don't believe in any of this Bigfoot conspiracy theories, any of that. Like, most people will just be like, I can't explain what I saw.
No, I love it. I love this idea of like the person is gonna come on Reddit and be like, "Well, yeah, I did see a goat man, and as I was walking up the hill, the sun shined on my shoulders like the weight of the world that my father had placed on X, Y, and Z." You know, like it's just like
It's like
that's
my
what it
dad
turns
used to take
into.
me there when we were kids. So I
Yeah,
have this weird, fondish memory of this area. And when did I ever think that I would run into Goat Man? With the 10-inch, you know what?
yeah, I know, and it's just like it's just too involved. That's the thing is, and the thing is that the debunking videos that the Corridor crew put together for the UFO and like visual effects stuff,
Hmm.
they're sussing out the same kinds of things just on like the visual level, and it's this like if you just take a look back and abstract it, like what you're trying to do, like we're looking at this right now, and it feels like it's overproduced, right?
It's super overproduced. It's
Yeah,
just too well written.
yeah,
It describes way too much. It gives way too much information.
yeah, and that's
It's
that's
like
bad
the
visual
person was
effects.
like, yeah, it's like the person was sitting there going like, I'm gonna create this crazy story and let me keep going. Like, some people are creative like that, like I may be creative like in my photography. Like, that's like the only aspect I think I'm really creative at anything, like, and I will do things in it. I will set it up to try to create something in it or capture something, and that way I could try to express what I was feeling at the time in that specific picture. And I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna and the perfect example would be like this. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go up to Mount uh Hillier, and at Mount Hillier I'm gonna try to get there around 6 p.m. just as about it's gonna get sunset. There's these beautiful rocks that I know. I'm gonna try to set up my tripod in this area, try to capture this specific mountain with this other specific mountain, and then I'm gonna try to put myself on top of it, and then I'm gonna take a picture. Then I'm gonna go home and edit it on what is it, Lightroom, and I'm gonna
Mhm.
change the tones to it because this is what I really want to do. And then I'm gonna put it on Instagram, and then people are gonna like it. And if I get enough likes, I'm gonna keep doing it. And that's why these things happen, because people are trying to do what I just described.
Meanwhile, there's like some poor kid that actually saw Krampus like back in the 60s, who's grown up now and is
Poor
like,
guy.
fuck, no one was gonna believe me because of this like essay that this person wrote on Reddit about Krampus, or whatever.
Oh man. But it's like this. They're oversaturated. There's so many people on Reddit. It's not like Facebook, where some of those posts are like wild. Those communities are wild. It's not
Yeah.
that. Where some of the stuff here is still believable, and the stories of how they write them are still believable. Like, it's not like you got to believe me, man. Where Facebook, I think 99% of the stuff on there is like, you just got to believe me.
Hmm.
And I think we get that. It's just so many communities people could go on and post stories. So many web pages you go on, post stories, and I think that's where also it gets dangerous, because then anybody could go on and post any story and make it up, and it's out there.
Yeah, and it's such a fine line that you have to ride. If you have an authentic experience, right? It's really challenging to get that out into the world because of all the crap that's out here. And the thing is, like, if it's too concise, if it's too to the too straight to the point, that's as bad at, that's, you know, the same thing as like blurry video, you know, like it's just like, it's useless because it doesn't like actually provide anything. And if you're, you know, there's a lot manufactured around the experience, then that's just as bad as like the, you know, the blurriness, right? Because it's just like, it's obviously that a bunch of stuff has been added. So again, like, you know, we talked about this maybe a couple weeks ago, but like, if there were some kind of agreed upon standard for submitting evidence for, you know, like paranormal experiences, and it doesn't have to be like exclusionary, it can be as simple as like, I took it with this camera at this time, here's the raw footage instead of like the encoded footage, you know, or if you don't have it, say I didn't record the raw file, unfortunately, but here's the encoding that I used and here's all the other details and things like that. I wonder if stuff like that would actually help to start to weed out some of the at least the evidence-based claims. Obviously, like with a story like this, there's no way to tell, right? Like it feels not authentic, right? Because there's too many details. But like a lot of the evidence-based stuff that we've looked at, where it's like an image or video or sound, you know, those do have a set of criteria just that you could use to weed out a lot of stuff. But then the thing is, as soon as you put those barriers up, then no one can post anything anywhere or share any of their experiences. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Where it's like, you know, but I do think that there needs to be that evaluation layer where it's like, you know, you are evaluating, well, what camera did they use? Well, that's why the orb showed up, right? Because the camera's laid out in this way and there was dust on XYZ and that's what this is, or it was a bug, or, you know, whatever. You like my rant?
I like your rant.
You like my rant, yeah.
I like your rant.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
It could also just be that demon Bob Homet, what they said in the post too. You know, it could also be that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You believe it. You believe it. 100%. I believe. I want to believe.
Demons, man.
You really don't believe in demons? Like you don't think there's like good and evil? Like no.
Nah. Well, do I think there's good and evil? Yeah, I do think good and evil exists in the world. Yeah, I don't think that there's in
a you know, one of
deity that's
Satan's, you know.
Yeah, I don't think there's
minions.
a set of deities that are like serving it down, like, you know, and saying like, yo, you know, you're good and bad because of these things. I don't think that, you know, Diablo's hanging out in the basement or anything, or the cellar. That's an even better word. I like cellar. But demons fascinate me for sure. I love demon stories. Love them 100%. Like you ever seen The Gate?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, The Gate 2. Fantastic movies, right? Anything Iron Maiden. I love Iron Maiden. They've got, you know, Eddie running around on stage. They're singing about atrocities of humanity, right? All within this like sort of like a demonic framework. Love all that stuff. I've independently looked at like all kinds of religions, like Wicca. Did a lot of looking into that in high school. And look, hey, if this stuff floats your boat, go for it, man. Like, totally down for people to enjoy their own belief systems. But for me, nothing's really like done it. And like, I think that's why I'm not scared of demons, right? Is because I don't feel like if I light a candle at 12:01 on Halloween, or even like Bloody Mary.
It's 3 a.m., bro. It's 3 a.m.
My bad.
It's 3 a.m. They say that is the hour that Jesus Christ died, and that the witching hour. I think that's what it's also called as.
Yeah,
it's where the devil is allowed to roam free, demons and everything. You know, you ever hear the saying that nothing good happens at 3 a.m.?
Bro, I'm up at 3 a.m. all the time. Nothing happens at 3 a.m. because everyone's asleep.
You're not wrong.
You know? Bloody Mary. Did you ever do Bloody Mary?
I can't say I did because I'm scared of demons.
Oh my god, dude. Grade school.
Nope, was never doing it, bro.
Never in grade school?
Never. I've never played with the Ouija board. I've never done the whole Bloody Mary. I've never done the whole La Llorona, the same thing. None of that, bro.
Light as a feather, stiff as a board. You didn't never do that?
Never.
Come on,
not doing
man.
It. Nope.
Oh my god.
Never. What was that thing that used to choke you that you could say that you see a demon too? I was like, no, man, that's people just cutting out oxygen to your brain.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I know when I was a kid, like when we had sleepovers, dude, I
Uh-huh.
remember staying over at my friend's house. A bunch of us. It was like a birthday party or something, and he had cable. He was like one of the few people that had cable, and we were watching Tales from the Crypt, and then that turned into, okay, we need to do light as a feather, stiff as a board, and of course we were levitating people. Of course we
Your
were.
mind was doing it, you know.
Exactly, in our minds.
That's how
And
it is.
that was the experience as a kid. It's like, oh yeah, John's levitating. That's great. That's awesome. Everyone gets scared and has a lot of fun with it, but all that stuff happened. It was
Yeah,
all in
dude,
our
I've
mind.
I've never done that. Ouija board was another one that I was like terrified of it. You know, I don't know, just because I grew up Catholic and culturally, like it was like bad news bears. Like you did not, you know. I guess my parents scared me enough.
Dude, I
They
love
were gonna
Ouija
drag me to
boards.
hell, you know, things like that. Nope, never did it.
I have a Ouija board. It's in the basement somewhere. I was looking for it yesterday, I think, and I could not find it. So maybe a demon took it. I was gonna
Maybe.
get it and put it out in the back just to, screw with you a little bit.
Oh man,
Maybe
like
I'll
what's
buy.
that?
If I can't find it, I'll buy one.
Yeah. I've always used to hear stories that, like, I think when I was a kid, people used to tell me that, like, yeah, I used to have a Ouija board and we tried throwing it away. We put it in the trash can and it was back this next day. You know, things like that. I was like, oh no, I'm not having any of that.
Yeah. Oh man, that's the shit kids believe. They have fun
Dude, one of
dolls.
my sisters did play with it. And dude, she was a troubled teen. I'll tell you that much. You know, sorry, my sister, I'm not gonna say her name, but she would play with it quite a numerous amount of times, and she talks about it as an adult. She's like, yeah, like, you know, she's like, things started happening after I played with it. I can't tell you from personal experience, but she would say like, yeah, she's like been scared ever since. Like, I can't talk about ghosts, I can't talk about demons around her. Like, if something weird happens like at the house we grew up in, like I couldn't share anything with her. Like, she was like terrified of it. And as she said, it's because of the time that she played with the Ouija board that something happened. She couldn't explain. She wouldn't share, but you know, some people, I guess it affects differently, emotionally and spiritually and physically.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I saw the thing move, by itself, even though everyone's hands were touching on it. But for me, it just like it was never like, oh, Frederick the demon is doing this. It was more like, okay, there's got to be like another reason. Someone's pushing hard or something. So, but I'm
Yeah, but
absolutely
you
fascinated
would
by it.
always hear those cases that say that it would move by itself.
Sure, but you hear that shit about everything. There's always like the weird. I mean, when I was growing up, there was a story about Smurfs in Jehovah Witness Kingdom halls. Do you know this story?
What?
Okay, so there was,
Please share with me.
yeah, there was a story about, if I remember correctly, it was like I, I just, real bare bones. I remember the story. I remember being told this is fact as a kid, that this is something that happened at one of the Kingdom halls, which is the equivalent of like a church. And basically, like, a kid came in. They you know how kids will, you take them to church and you'll have like a pen and paper, or you'll have like
Hmm.
some toys or whatever to keep them occupied while adults do the worrying about their eternal souls bullshit. So that was the scenario, and like the kid came in and had a whole bunch of Smurf toys, and then the sermon equivalent of the sermon for the witnesses was something like, you need to throw your toys out they're all like vessels to the devil, and especially these Smurfs. And as soon as they said the Smurfs, the kids' toys jumped, like perked up, animated, and then walked out of the Kingdom Hall. And this was something that was being passed around. Like, kids were telling each other that this was something that had happened, for fact. So, I
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you what I've heard about the Smurfs, right?
okay,
That they were demonic, and it was doing some weird Satan worshiping, and that the bad guy, the name of it, what was the bad guy's name? Gargoyle, or what was his name?
God, I don't
In Smurf.
remember, dude. I
Well,
honestly don't
apparently that's
remember.
like a demon's name, like a very powerful demon's name. I've heard of this. Like, someone was telling me stories about, like, yeah, the Smurfs. Like, I've heard some version of what you're talking to me about. I don't know if it was like at a Church of the Latter-day Saints or a Mormon church, but something similar that someone shared to me. Like, yeah, it's because the Smurfs are like, it's like devil worshipping. There's devil worshipping in that show because I guess they're saying something about the intro about it and the Smurfette. Like, there's a bunch of weird things that the occult is in that. And
Next
the
week
bad
on
guy's
This Weekend
name.
Redacted, we will examine the Smurfs on a new episode.
But I've heard of that. I've never gone into like research about it, like to see like, hey, if it's truly demonic. That it had something to do with Smurfette, how many Smurfs were in it, the Papa Smurf, and the bad guy in it. It all like demonic things about it, something weird like that. I don't remember where I saw this video or who talked to me about it, but I've heard the same thing, that the Smurf got up and walked out, or it pretty much became alive, like. But yeah, I've heard stories like that too.
I mean, that's in perfect alignment with what the witnesses believed, at least at the time. From the way that my kid brain was processing it, was that you had all these media properties and shit, like, records and stuff, and they're all the wrong path. You're not supposed to go down that path, and they're going to lead you down the bad path, and toss them out, throw them all out, because they're going to screw your life up and you'll never be able to get into heaven, and some other bullshit like that. So that lines up like very nicely. Now, whether or not it's true, come on, it's a bunch of fucking animators who were stoned, that were out of their mind, just putting this shit together. A bunch of writers that were just, dropping acid is my guess. But that would be a fun one to explore for sure. Like, what's the actual history of the Smurfs? I don't know what the history is.
Yeah, dude, I literally trying to type in Gargamel and they're like, the Smurfs are satanic.
Really?
Yes, like, that's what I just typed it in Google, and
there's been Smurf movies in recent history, right? Like, that's a thing that's happened.
Yeah.
What's the last Smurf movie that has been out since you're looking?
I think it has, let's see, Hank Azaria is in a Smurf movie.
Oh, yeah, Hank the Devil Worshipper? Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Dude, Hank Azaria is fucking awesome.
2011, the Smurfs movie.
So was there like a whole demonic? Yeah, was there like a whole demonic
I
campaign
can't tell you
around
I've seen it. Now I'm gonna have to go watch that movie to tell you, be like, yep, it's satanic.
For real, like, I'm actually curious, like, if it was a property that was... It's so weird because I don't remember it being like...
I remember this. I don't know why. Like, it's in my brain that I know that I was like, oh yeah, the Smurfs are apparently satanic. Like, I've heard a couple stories about it.
Well, I remember from all the witness stuff but I had scoped it down in my mind to, well, that's just like a small group of people, right? Like, or a relatively small group of people. Not like it was like a big like cultural thing where it was well known. But if you're talking,
it's one of those like memories that I've completely forgot about. Like, I haven't even thought about it since, like, I don't know, maybe since I was a kid. I think I remember people saying that, oh yeah, it's satanic.
Well, I gotta get some Smurfs in the background then. Like, that's what I'm I'm looking to spruce up the area a little bit, so I'll add a Papa Smurf.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go down that rabbit hole, be like, the Smurf satanic, and then go watch the movie, and then have someone do a deep dive video to the Smurfs movie being satanic and devil worshipping.
You should do the deep dive movie. You should start thinking about like putting some stuff together like that, because it's actually fun, man. And it's
doing things
so
like that.
Yeah, and it's so hard too. It's insane because it's like I know we both watch a lot of YouTube. That's probably why we're here, like, doing this now, right? It's like we watch a lot of this stuff, and man, so just putting this trivial content together that we've been doing,
it's difficult already, right?
Yeah, like, I wouldn't say it's difficult, but there's a learning curve, and there's definitely, it's work. You got to work at it, and you got to learn how to do the stuff really well. And like, even today, like, we almost started a little bit late, and it's like, you have to be consistent, and it's like there's all these things that are just like super cool. But the video essay thing, right? so much more challenging than I was expecting. Even just talking to a fucking camera is so much more
Right?
challenging.
It's like I mentally have to do that. Like look at it.
Yeah.
It's like turn it on. It's just like not easy to do. Like just like organically do it. It's not natural. Like it's like I sit here and I have to look at it like I'm talking to my audience, my target audience, right?
Yeah.
And then do what I'm going back to what I'm doing and then go back and look at it. It just is not natural thing to do.
Yeah, it's so weird. And it's like I'm on Zoom calls all day, but like most of the time I'm not looking at a camera. I'm looking at a screen trying to figure out, you know. Like
Now
an
the
issue or
crazy
something.
thing is when I used to do the Bigfoot videos, I would talk into the camera a lot. It's because I had it like in a you know in a tripod, you know, or a monopod, and that's how I would sit there and talk to it. Because it's like I would either be showing or talking to it, and it was a little bit easier to do that.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah. Okay. One hard pivot into the next news article.
Yeah, definitely.
Coming up at number 4. No, I forget what this is. Oh, let's talk about the ghost thing. We kind of already did, but here's the actual post, right? So here's what's cool about this one is nothing. Like it's just it's a picture of a shadow. Like look at this, it's a picture of a shadow. So basically the context is took a picture, power went out, husband and wife. She said snap some pictures and see if anything pops up, which is a very bizarre thing for a wife to say to a husband. Like, why would you like? Okay, so
Well, wait. But what if they were already experiencing paranormal stuff, right? And now was like, okay, let's jokingly take a picture now, see if we capture anything. What if that's what they were trying to do? Because I don't think they didn't post anything that in the post. It's just like a strange picture with a strange shadow. Now, I appreciate the fact that it's dark, it's blurry, but there's no context on like why they felt they needed to do this. Like jokingly, let's see if we can capture anything, you know, paranormal activity type of thing. But it just there's too many questions unanswered. Like why do they do it? What was the purpose behind it? Um, why would she say, hey, take a picture? Like it's like I have to fill in all the spots for them, you know, I have to fill up all the sentences for them and be like, okay, so this is what I think they would do it, right? If I was them and I was in this situation and I told my significant other, hey, I know we've been having a lot of weird paranormal stuff in our house lately, why don't we take a picture next time the lights go out, since the lights go out all the time, you know, and you capture it and be like, hey guys, this is what's been going on at our house. We've had a lot of weird paranormal stuff and we capture something and we can't explain it. Like, help us out. What do you guys think? Do you think this is real? You know, and these are a couple of the stories of what we've had happen. I've had lights turn on and off, objects disappear, reappear in different places. Um, you know, we'll hear voices, footsteps. The cats and dogs stare at the wall and are hissing at, you know, that, or they're barking like that. I think I would have believed that a lot more versus like, here's a picture.
yeah, it's just so weird. Like especially it's no backstory, right? And I mean, it is what it is. But like,
but I think it's a good picture.
why? Well, what do you see? Like all
Okay,
this
so
here,
all I see is hair, right? I see like something like sticking out a little bit and it's looking, or maybe it's just like looking at them. Because I've had something happen to me like this in my apartment, that where I thought maybe I'm like
you talking about
just
here?
at my house, like about my current apartment that I'm
No,
in
no.
right
I
here.
mean in the photo.
I've had something like this happen to me, right? And I was just like, whoa, taking it back a little bit. And at no moment did I think it was a ghost, but it was something that I felt like popped out on the side of my on my side right here is like my hallway,
Uh-huh.
and something popped out like that, like similar like that. And it was dark and I couldn't explain it. And it was maybe like around midnight. And it was like that. It looked exactly like that. And I was like, whoa. I was like, well, and I just wrote it off. I was like, maybe I'm just tired. I've been sleep deprived lately. The cars from the street, maybe the light did it, but it's kind of weird. I told my fiance the next day, I was like, hey, something weird happened to me. And I sat there and described what happened. She's like, I've had that happen too. She's like, when you're not home, sometimes, you know, I'll have the lights off too. And I'll notice like something just like sticks its head out a little bit. And I'll just be like, what it is? She's like, and I'll just like, maybe it's the lights. Someone died in this apartment is the other thing. previous tenant.
Just I don't know, man. Like there's such like a, if I saw a head come out from like the side, I would grab a baseball bat and go over there and just be like ready to crack a head, because I would think, you know, this is a person, not, you know, oh, this is just something that happens occasionally. I see a head crop up from the hallway. You know, like there's a big gap between like the normalized experience of like, yeah, the lights are out and I'll see like a head sometimes, versus
No, not sometimes. I've only had it happen once. Enough.
But your
one time in
wifey
the
had
7
it
years.
happen once, right?
One time. And like the last thing that I've had
Okay.
happen in this apartment that was weird is one of my lights, the new lights, one of my older lights, it was my fiance's light, and she would do it for her streaming, and it turns on in the middle of the night sometimes, and it's one of those where you have to press it, and when you press it, it has 3 different colors, and I know you know what I'm talking about. It has a super white, a lighter white version, and a red version. And to get to the red version, you have to hit it 3 times. And I got up in the middle of the night. It was maybe like 4 o'clock. And the light was on in the kitchen is where she has it. And I was just like, huh, it's kind of strange. And I went over and I just turned it off. And I didn't think like it was a ghost. I didn't think it was anything paranormal. But it was it's something weird. And things like that happen in this apartment. Nothing, you know, I don't hear like stuff moving, disappearing, reappearing, footsteps, nothing like that. Not like the house I grew up in. But... And maybe that's why. Go on.
Well, I was gonna say, do you think that the ghost was waiting for the witching hour to try and stream to Twitch?
Maybe.
That's, I mean.
Oh my god, bro! Nothing good happens at 3 a.m. You know, but
yeah.
Maybe that's why I feel like I could relate to this one and I could believe this one, is because I've had something similar happen to me, and I think those are the situations where I've had something similar happen to me, and now I believe it a little bit more. Versus, let's say I've never had anything happen to me, I'll be like, get the hell out of here with this fake stuff. But I've had something weird happen to me like this. I've had some things that I was like, I can't explain, and maybe that's why I think this is like a pretty good one. You're gonna be like, that's just a shadow.
I mean, I don't know what it is. I do know that like the few times where I've seen something that has been like movement or something strange in the backyard and it's been at night, it's either been a raccoon or a person in the fucking backyard. It's never been like, you know, oh, a head crops out from the, you know, the back of like a shed and then it disappears. So it's like I haven't had that experience. I've definitely had the experience of feeling creeped out at an area. You know, like that's one of the reasons why I think that video, I'm still thinking about that video from time to time, right? It's because I've been to places.
You out.
Yeah, well, I know that feeling. You know, I can relate to it like very directly. I have had those kinds of experiences before.
Yeah, I've had that where like uncomfortable, like worried. Like I was like, yeah, my anxiety is like way too high here. Like my you know, flight is telling me like, you need to get out of here, is how, you know, like I think that's why both of us were in that video, because I've had that similar feeling going like, no, I don't feel safe here. There's my spider senses are out of control.
Yeah, it's almost like a primal experience, I think. You know?
Yeah.
It's, yeah. I've had
like,
a few of those.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know why I could sense that, like, you know, spider senses, they tingle. I've had that go like, okay, this is not, I don't feel safe here. What you know, it's like, why, you know, like what triggers it? Like, you know, that's a very interesting question to ask. Like what, you know, I think the other time is when I was like in downtown LA and I saw someone chasing somebody else with a knife. I was like, yeah, it's time to get out of here.
Was that Tuesday and then Wednesday and then Thursday and then also on Friday? Was that
Nah, dude, I think I was like 16 years old.
Oh shit.
These 2 guys fighting, and I was on Alameda.
Okay.
And I was waiting for the bus. I was coming back from Melrose with one of my friends, and the next thing I know is everybody got on the bus, and the bus driver was like, get on. And my friend Lewis was like, Chris, get on. And he was like chasing him, and he had like this big Rambo knife, and we all just like stood there, and I witnessed something morbid, you know, and we took off, and the guy was like, the bus driver, no one's gonna pay, we'll just get out of here and we'll stop off at at Union Station, and from Union Station, everybody could take their bus, and here's a free transfer. It was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. That I was like, did I just witness someone get killed?
Yeah.
16
Good,
is what I.
good bus driver.
Oof, it was one of those that I just standing there looking, like I was just shocked. Like I don't think there was run or stay or flight. Like it was just one of those people yell like, "Hey, get on, get out of here."
Yeah.
It was quite an experience. A Street in Alameda, not a safe place even to this day.
I mean, LA like during that time was pretty,
Rough.
pretty rough. Yeah, and then it cleaned up
It
for
was
a long while.
daytime too. It was maybe like 3
Yeah.
p.m. Oof, just talking about it makes me that sensation that we're talking about. I have it right now, just like.
Yeah, LA was one of those. It was just like, stay away from LA because nothing good comes out of it. At least when I was younger. And then I remember when I started working in LA, I didn't have an experience as bad as that, just FYI.
Yeah.
But it was like mostly stories of shit like that, right? And so I
That's
had a
the
lot of
only
anxiety.
story I've ever had of like downtown LA. And I
Well,
knew as like
I worked there for years. It was fine until the homelessness started to creep up. So,
yeah, the gangs and drugs, I remember as a kid, like it was bad, and as a teenager it was bad, and I knew like it was not safe to be there at night. Like anytime we were going anywhere and we had to go to downtown because it was like a main hub, station there. It's like get there before it gets dark, because in the dark it's not even safe. In the daytime, in the dark time, it was like nighttime was like definitely not safe.
yeah, I haven't been down there in a long time. I'm guessing it's cleaned up now.
A lot of people say that it's not like that, but my primal instinct just tell me like, nope, do not go. Nope, I've experienced way too many things down there. I've experienced something that I was like, I am still not going there.
I don't know, man. From like 2009 to like 2016, I think I was in LA at night all the time, just drunk, walking the streets from happy hours.
I mean, I've
so.
experienced it with like a couple friends. We would go underneath all those strange garage systems that are like, which is weird that no one ever talks about that. All those parking garages are all connected. I know. Do you know this?
I didn't know that. Wait, which parking garages?
The whole parking structure for all of downtown is like a good portion of it is connected. Like you could go through like doors and tunnels and everything. Like, yeah, it's
literally
strange.
the first I've ever heard of that. I was parked right across from the Biltmore, and they had like an underground section.
So those underground sections have other connections to other parking structures across, and you could connect to them. Like it was like just through doors and go through stairs, go through another door. I think there was one time we were at the LA art show in downtown, and one of our friends were like, hey, they started like not raiding it, but the police showed up and they started like trying to kick people out. And last time something happened like that, they tear gassed the whole damn crowd. So my friend at the time, rest in peace, was like, hey, let's go down here. This is one of my friend's brothers. He's like, let's go down to the parking lot. I was like, where the hell are we going? Going all the way down. And then we were like somewhere like on Alameda and 8th, and we ended up somewhere near Temple, like, which is blocks away from us.
What?
And it was just like, how did you know this? He's like, dude, I'm always in downtown LA. He's like, someone showed me.
I gotta ask some people about this because this is literally the first time I'm hearing of that. And
yeah, I've
crazy.
never experienced it before that, and I know that like you could connect and jump between them. It's crazy.
I love hidden tunnels, man. Like,
it's not even tunnels. It's just like, yeah, it's like parking structures that are connected together.
That's insane.
Fascinating.
I know Frankie Muniz, Malcolm from Malcolm in the Middle. He bought a whole bunch of parking stuff in downtown LA. Like as a kid, like he invested in it.
Dude, they're crazy expensive. Like he was super smart for that.
Hell yeah, man. Like, and I think the reason that he invested in it was because he was like, oh yeah, people park all the time. It wasn't even like the real reason, which is just that property, the land itself is so expensive, like
he's like, people just park here. There's no parking down there, so it's just.
Yeah.
But like most people don't know, they're like a crazy amount of floors down. Like it's just not like 1 or 2 floors. There's like 12 floors down. Some of those buildings.
You're blowing my mind on
I
this, and
thought
it's
you
not
knew
even
this.
no, and it's just like that's insane because like the park. I mean I like I said, I worked in downtown for many
Well,
years.
you see it like parking $25, and it's just
Yeah.
like they're not going up, they're going down, and you always see cars go
Yeah.
in. So they got to support everybody that works in those buildings because the first couple of floors will either be like either restaurants or shops or bars, and then the rest of it is like office buildings. Like you would know, you worked in downtown LA for a while, and where do you think all those people park? Like they don't commute in and get dropped off or anything like that, so they all park there and they need to be connected to make it.
I just never really
easier
thought about it. You know, like that's so funny. Like I literally never really even thought about it. Like the other thing is that for a number of years I took the bus into LA because it was just so much more convenient. I lived in Monterey Park, and there was literally a bus that would just drop me off like right across, like one bus that would just literally drop me like right off in front of the Biltmore. So it was like one stop. And man, with COVID now, I don't think I would want to take public transportation again.
With homelessness, you don't want to take public transportation.
Oh
like,
man,
it's bad right now.
Up here, I would never take public transportation just because
No way.
there's so
like we
much
had
fun.
bad public transportation in Los Angeles already. It got worse because of the homelessness. Like the red line, the yellow line, the green line, like none of those are safe. Like the police don't even patrol them anymore because they got rid of that specific police department for it. Now it's just LAPD that controls it. So it's not even like Metro Police anymore.
It's just the wrong direction, man. Like
budget cuts, it's just it was bad news bears to be a police officer and get any type of money into it because of defunding the police department. It's just like, okay, let's try to do this to like calm everything down a little bit, and I think it's just hurt us now. They're so tied up right now. Their hands are just so tied that like in Los Angeles they don't take care of the homelessness. They don't any type of vandalism. They won't even go and see it anymore. Literally there was one time we called at Michael's where I work, and the cops were like, has anybody gotten hurt? We're like, no, someone's gonna get hurt. They're like, well, we can't show up until someone gets hurt. So, but if somebody gets killed, they're like, well, we can't show up until someone gets hurt or killed. I was like, this person is grabbing stones and throwing them at cars and throwing them at people. Like, I just need the cops. He's like, well, we can't do anything. Like, that's how bad it is. This is Los Angeles, 2023.
I mean, to be honest, Portland is as bad. Like, it's. I mean, if you go on the Reddit, you'll see stories in Portland about, oh, hey, I got stabbed and called 911 and got put on hold for 45 minutes. And then it's. I don't know. Maybe it's West Coast major cities that are experiencing
I don't know,
it.
because when I had a meeting with the Los Angeles Police Department about our center, like how bad the shoplifting is and the homelessness and drug situation was there, they were like, please call and file a police report. And all of us were like, when we call, it's like an hour and a half, 2 hour wait. They're like, if you have the time, like, please, like, wait to an officer like gets your police report, or just do it online and email me and tag me, like, so that way we could try to control this and help you guys with this. They literally told us 2 hours, like, wait on hold for 2 hours and please do a report. If not, we can't do anything. We can't have a police presence here. And the only reason why the police department even had that community meeting with like the center is because I think that was like the 6th person that's gotten murdered in that lot because of like drug deals, because of gang violence, and they were like, what's going on? Do you guys know anything? And all of us were like, yeah, this is what's going on, blah 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 blah, and this is how crazy it is. So I work at the Michaels. Next to me is like a World Market, and then it's a Petco, then it's a Walmart, TJ Maxx, and a Ross, right? So it's big chain stores. On the other side of it, there's a Target, and in between this, there's like a little alleyway. And between the alleyway, between all these stores, there's a school called the School of Rock, right? And it's like for kids, playing instruments. The
Wait,
people.
one second before you continue with that. This is gonna this is entirely the conspiracy post, by the way, that we've been talking about.
Okay.
The last, I don't know if you read this one.
Absolutely, I read it. This
100%,
is what
right?
100%.
So
Let's segue into it.
we have segued into the post accidentally because it is 100%. The post is just basically saying, by the way, for anyone that hasn't read it, we'll flash it on the screen in a second, that post-pandemic people have changed. Has anyone noticed that people have changed? And the things
Absolutely.
that they're listing off are short tempers, hostility on the street, while you're driving. Like, we're not talking about like little hostility, like, because road rage has always existed. We're talking about like massive, right? And all the stuff that Chris has been talking about over the last part of the story, all of this has been escalating post pandemic.
Infinitely. So
keep going.
The cops, so when we were talking to the cops, they're like, this is what's happening in front of kids, is what they're telling us, is they'll do these drug deals. He says someone will drop off in this alleyway where there's a bunch of trees right there. He says they'll drop off a package, then someone else comes and picks up, and they take the package. He's like, and it's drugs or money, and they're dropping it off there, and we see it. And what's crazy is where I work at, it's a very wealthy community, and the whole community even says, like, it wasn't like this before. After COVID, something happened. And this is what the community tells me, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you drive up where I work, there's multi-million dollar homes, like mansions. There's communities that have these weird Halloween competitions for their houses, like how they decorate them, and Christmas too. So these houses are like in newspaper articles, they're in the news, they're like that. So there's a lot of money just less than a quarter of a mile from me. And that community comes into the stores and comes in there and they're like, I don't know what happened. Like, there's not like a drug rehab center there. There's not a homeless center there. They just don't understand how this community happened. And they all say the same thing. Something after COVID happened. And I even noticed it too. Like, what happened? Like, something happened after COVID. Like, everybody's temper went like crazy. Like, nobody has a fuse anymore. It's just a button. And being a retail manager during that was one of the most difficult things that I ever experienced in my life. Now, what no one ever talks about is that we suffer post-traumatic syndrome. Everybody that worked retail, that worked through this. It was the craziest thing that we've ever experienced, right? And no one's ever going to talk about it. No one's ever going to say that maybe we did suffer PST. And I went through a pandemic, a race riot, pretty much. Like, we almost burned fucking everything down because of this. And then everybody like changing their mood, and the social unrest happened, and it stayed like that. It stayed stuck, right? Now, what I believe may have caused this is we were so stuck at home, because there's two sides of it, right? There's the side that the people that went through the trauma of going to work and dealing with everybody that was dealing with this, and then there was the side of the people that were at home that got furloughed, that all started working for home, and then dealing with that, right? So all of this tension that we all had, it built up, so eventually now it's exploding. Now it's happening, right? Because we suffered through it, right? Why isn't there enough retail workers? It's because nobody wants to work in these environments anymore, and if they do, they want to get paid a ridiculous amount of money, and no retailer wants to pay this. Nobody wants to come in and make minimum wage. They want to come in and make, like, I'll do it for like $25 an hour, $26 an hour. And I sit there and I tell these people, I was like, there's no way, like, we're going to pay you that much. There's no company in retail that's going to pay you that much. So then they're just like, no, forget it. I'm not going to do it. And it's just, nobody wants to come and work with us because you're dealing with a lot of ugly people. Like, that's just the way it is. That's what it's turned into as being a retail manager during COVID. It was like the weirdest and strangest thing. It changed my people too. When I was at Petco, it changed them. They all became very different people. They became different managers. They were like upset. They were traumatized from it. We dealt with such negativity I'm gonna share a story with you, and I'm not embarrassed to share it. So this is the height of COVID. So this is probably like somewhere like around April, right? And I had to be a hall monitor at the door. We weren't allowed to have more than 50 people, 15 people in the store, including staff. I had about 7 to 8 people in grooming and 2 to 3 people cashiering and myself. So total, we would be 11 to 12 of us at a time throughout the whole day. So that meant I was only allowed 5 people at a time to come in. So I would sit there and stand there and tell them how many is there. Hey, is it okay if only one of you from your group and your party come in? That way we let more people in and let more people shop. And I would get people that would fight with me, that would say like, you're invading our freedom of liberties. They're taking away our rights. And that was like every day what I dealt with. I'm not wearing a fucking mask is what I would get. People would argue about this, going like, there's a line, and just dealing with that. So I think I was like fed up with how much was happening already, right? And someone was coming in and someone was fighting me about coming in the line. I was like, you can't come in unless you have a mask. And then after that, I was like, I'm not gonna fight you, dude. I don't make these rules. Like, I'm not gonna fight you. You just could go in. Like, you're gonna piss everybody else off that's in here. Like, go ahead and shop. They came in, and then after that, this lady and this son, maybe like a toddler, like 3 years old, she's coming in. She's has a mask, and her son has a mask. And for whatever reason, it did something to me. I couldn't explain why it bothered me. And I was like, I'm sorry, like right now we're only letting 5 people in. Once they go in, and I'm taking count. And I'm sorry. And she's sitting there explaining to her 3-year-old, 4-year-old, like, hey, this is what's going on. We can't come in right now. We're gonna leave. I know you want to see the pets, but we'll come back some other time. And I was like, thank you. I'm sorry. And she left. And maybe like an hour later, my shift was done. Dude, I went home and I cried. I cried because I was like, I can't deal with this. Like, no one explained to me like how to handle this. Like, my corporation couldn't tell me, people couldn't tell me, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And I would tell my people like, no one has ever gone through this, and no one after us may ever go through this again. I said, we're experiencing something that no one has ever has. So I'm sorry if I'm not doing things right, or if I'm making mistakes as I'm going along, but I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to protect you guys and protect myself at the same time. And after that, dude, I was never the same. And I will admit to that. I'm not that same person anymore. Like, it changed me, and I don't know how it changed me. And God knows what type of effects wearing a mask 8 hours a day really is going to do to me 20, 30 years from now. And this post, like, it resonated with me, going like, absolutely, something happened to me. I'm one of those people that changed. I am one of those people that felt this, and I am one of those people now that are like short-tempered. Like, I have no patience for anybody. Sorry if I went on a super rant, but
No, it's
absolutely.
good. I it resonated with me too. I had a very different experience because I work remotely, and so I didn't have to deal with people face to face. But that I also have not dealt with people face to face for a very long time. The
You
amount
know,
of isolation that occurred over
I'm
that
sorry
period of
to
time.
interrupt you, Ryan, but there's something you told me during COVID, because we were playing video games and that's how we met.
Yeah.
And it stayed stuck with me. And I don't know if you remember what you told me.
I
We
say shit all the
were
time.
we were talking randomly about COVID and how you were like, it sucked because I moved up, to where I moved to, right? You were saying like, what, Portland,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it was right at the height of COVID. And you said something to me that it stayed stuck with me to this day. You're like, dude, I haven't touched somebody for a year.
Oh
Like, just,
yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
not just like sexually, like, I haven't like shook someone's hand. I haven't hugged anybody. Like, I haven't like physically encountered a human, like physically in a year. And I was just like, fuck, that's why everyone's so crazy. Like,
Yeah,
everyone's so different.
absolutely, 100%, man. That
It
was a
was like,
very strange.
it was the, it was like, it was an idea that I just was like, that I couldn't comprehend, that I was like, because I live with my fiance, and I was like, I have physical, you know, affection towards them, and we talked about that after you told me that. We talked about that. She's like, not everybody was as lucky as you and I. She's like,
Yeah.
but things like that also could hurt us.
Oh,
Could
dude,
change us.
absolutely. Like it's been, it had been a very, it was not a, it was, so I'm trying to think when we were talking about that. I think it probably would have been, probably,
2021 probably.
yeah, around TBC time, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't during Classic. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Cause it was like, I was seeing someone, and so I had a couple things that were going on, right? Like I was seeing someone before COVID, comma, there were all these like little get-togethers and stuff with meetups, right? So the professionally, and then also just like board game related events and things like that. So I had like little things like that going on, but I was relatively still new up in the area in terms of like I didn't have like I don't, and I still don't really have like great like friend structure up here, but like I definitely was like building it at the time, and all of that stuff just completely disappeared, like all at the same time when COVID hit, because
Like vanished. Yeah.
just
It
like
had
poof.
to.
Yeah, exactly, it had to. And so it's like the girl I'd been seeing at the time had like we had talked briefly about like, you know, are we gonna like, what's the next level, you know, are we gonna like move in and stuff like that, and I was just not super feeling it. And it was going by very quickly too, and so it was like no. And then COVID hit, and then it was just like, I remember that like when we were talking, and it was just like, it was a day of realization, because it was like it was, I think a full year had passed from the day that I think it was probably the last meetup that I'd gone to with the board game group, and it was just like, man, it does change you,
Did
like, as a
something to us.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me it was less like I don't feel like I'm less patient. I'm definitely more anxious around people now, though. Like just as I've been doing more stuff like out in the world, especially Portland, there's a lot of just random shit that happens that is just like fucking insane. Like the BLM protests that were going on. Like I'm driving around one day, just living my life, and suddenly there's a crowd of people around my car kicking it.
Oh man.
You know, and it's like, okay, thank you for protesting. Like it's not like helping anybody. And by the way, none of you all are actually care about the thing that you're protesting for, is what my take was. But like, you know, those kinds of experiences were going on too, and so it was like a really bad mixture of just like, you know, and I think what it comes down to for me personally is, like you had said, right? Like you did the best with what you had. I think that's generally everybody. There's people that knew more information early on that took advantage of it and had special exclusions for the rules that were being made. That's very clearly what was happening in a lot of cases. But I think generally everybody was just trying to, everyone thought it was going to be like, yeah, survive. Like next week it'll be gone. Next week will be gone.
That's
then all of a
funny.
sudden it's 6 months into it, and it's like, when is this fucking thing going away? Like, come on.
The funny thing is, when this was happening, they were asked my staff. We had like a meeting, and they were asking me. They're like, "What do you think is gonna happen?" I was like, "This is not gonna go away." I was like,
Yeah.
"All of you think this is gonna go away in like 2-3 weeks?" I was like, "This is not going away." I said, "We're probably gonna be wearing masks till like 2023." Like,
Yeah.
y'all laugh. I said, "But this is gonna be around forever. Like, we're all gonna have to deal with it." Like the Spanish flu. I said, "It's still around.
Mhm.
This is the same thing or worse," is what I was telling them. And they're like, "No, I don't think that's gonna happen." I was like, "Yeah, we're all gonna wear masks. We're all gonna, this is like 2020, like before lockdown." And then lockdown happened, and it was like the craziest experience driving on the freeway, being the only person on the freeway going to work.
I can't even imagine that. Like the closest I can get is like in LA in December, right? As soon as November hits, like mid-November,
Hmm.
traffic starts to thin out until the 1st. But there's still like lots of people. Like it sounds to me like an episode of The Walking Dead, and I know
It's
because
exactly what it felt like.
it's so strange, man.
Yeah, like getting on the 134 to the 5 freeway, no cars on it. The whole freeway was my lane. It was like,
Mind
there
blown.
was the freeway sign says do not speed. Please do not speed. Like it would just say that because they would just be like 3 or 4 cars on the highway going in both directions. And it was like that for months. And then little by little, you started noticing the traffic started picking up because everything started getting like, uh, open. More things started opening up. And I did notice it. It was maybe like a year later when I noticed I was like, traffic was like back to normal.
Yeah.
And by that time, it was like, I don't think the vaccination had been out. They just were like, deal with it. They couldn't, the companies couldn't economically survive any longer. And a lot of people don't discuss that corporations put their wealth over humans. People were
Oh
still
yeah.
dying.
Hey man,
People
look,
were dealing with it.
in Portland, one of the worst things that happened off the pandemic was you had like these vibrant a vibrant food culture up here that really what it was a lot of independent small businesses who were experimenting with ideas, right? And it happened to be in the food area. There's also some art that I think falls into that category. All of that got, not all, but like a big chunk of it got wiped off the face of the planet because those businesses were already operating pretty thin from what I can tell. They didn't have like a huge nest egg built up. So, they're gone, but Jack in the Box still exists.
Yeah.
Why? Because Jack in the Box has the staying power and the money, right? So we lost so much culture up here. And the thing is, like, that makes everybody's life less enjoyable. It
Yeah.
decimates the people who are running the businesses and their families. So now they're all fucked up, right? So like all these things happen, and that's not, that happened across the board with not just, those businesses, but so many businesses up here. And it just defaulted back to the corporate overlords because they could weather the storm. And I think that's another reason why people just got so, like, people have changed because the face of existence has changed after this, right? And I'm very happy that things have dialed back enough, that you don't have to be out in the world with a mask. And
See, I still see a lot of people. I still
sure,
see
yeah,
a lot of people still going out with masks, and it's just like normal. And sometimes I think like, should I still be wearing a mask? It was like a weird decision I had to make. It's like I noticed that a good portion of my staff stopped wearing masks, and I was like one of the very few last people that still was wearing a mask. And it got to the point where I was like, well, I'm vaccinated, and I got my second one, I got the third one. Like when, and by that time, a lot of people were wearing masks. And it's not like I don't know if I didn't feel comfortable with that or I just wasn't ready mentally. Maybe I was using that as a security blanket. And I think just one day I was like, okay. And one of my staff was like, I was still wearing my mask because you were still wearing your mask. She's like, and when you stopped wearing it, she
that
said,
was it.
she's like, I didn't want to feel like the only person that was still wearing it. She's like, and you made me feel safe from it. And she's like, and you took it off. She's like, not that I didn't. She's like, but she's like, I knew it was time to let go. And it was like that. There was something like 3 or 4 of us at the end.
Look, man, here's my take on masks, by the way. I think it's perfectly fine to wear a mask. Like, if I'm sick, if I got a cold, I'll probably put a mask on at this point if I'm going out in
Well,
public.
that's what's normal now. Like my
Yeah,
coworkers tell me, like, I'm sick. I tested COVID. I don't have it. I'll come into work. I'll wear a mask. I don't freak anybody out. I was like, all right, cool.
probably
And they'll
should we
come in.
should have been doing that from like day one, right? Like it's just kind of like a
And then they'll
hygiene
come
thing.
in and then they'll be wearing the mask and then they're like, fuck it, I can't do it. It's like one of those. It's just if retail has taught me anything, that I'm gonna take to my grave is that people are disgusting.
Yeah, they are.
People are disgusting. People are dirty. They're disgusting. They have no like. Everyone is the main character of
Yeah.
their movie, bro. Is what I've learned, right? Like it's just one of the funniest things that I experienced through COVID was it was almost lockdown. Everybody was panicking, buying everything, right? And this guy was paying cash, and he does the, and I was like,
Oh no.
bro, what are
Why?
you doing? I
Why?
that. And he's like, he literally was like, oh shit. He was like, I'm so sorry. And then he starts touching the machine. I'm like, bro, you just touched your hand. You licked
Oh.
it.
Oh. Then the next guy
And he
comes out,
was
takes his
like,
credit card out, goes,
no, this is what
swipes
happens,
it.
right, dude? I have my bottle, right? So the
Uh-huh.
next person that comes in sees all of this, and they have hand sanitizer spray like
Oh,
this,
fuck.
and they start spraying the shit out of my machine, and I'm like, no, don't spray it. You can't spray it with like. She's like, but that guy was. I was like, oh my god, I'll never forget that. The guy was like, he starts counting his money. I was like, bro, what the
Who
fuck are
does
you
that
doing?
anyhow? Like, who counts like that?
Dude, in retail, and I cussed exactly like I said. I was like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? You know, there's a fucking pandemic. Like, what are you doing? Like, don't be licking your money. Like, who the fuck does this? And the funny thing is, he was like one of my regular customers, and after that, he would come in and we just chit chat here and there, and he's like, "Have a good day," and it was just like a funny thing. But I'll never forget that because he was always one of those guys that like counted his money, and he had a money clip. It was just, oh man, well, that was a funny thing from COVID. One of my favorite things that happened through COVID is we used to close early, dude. We used to close like around 5 p.m., 6 p.m., and I loved it, right? Get up, play play World of Warcraft Classic till 3 o'clock in the morning because I didn't have to be at work till like 10 a.m. So I'd get out of bed like at 9 and rush my ass to like Pecco. So we used to get out like at 6 p.m. and we had like, if I really think about it, I was only working 10 to 6 because that's all they were allowing us to. And yeah, I lost wage from that. Like I really think about it now because I was hourly, wasn't salary, so I was losing money from it. So, anyways, that's beside the point. I'm getting ready to leave, and what this lady, I see her, like I'm closing the door and I already have set the alarm and I could see her from my peripheral and she's in her car. And I have a giant sign in the back that says I work at Petco because it has a big old giant Petco sign on it. So she's like, wait. And I'm walking and I'm going to Ralph's because I'm going to try to go buy groceries before they close because they close like an hour, and I'm like kind of like jogging. And she's like, wait. She's like, "Are you closed already?" I was like, "Yeah, we closed at 6." She's like, "Is the manager here?" I was like, "Oh, the manager went home already." I was the manager. And she's like, "But I need cat food." And I was like, "Well, Ralph's is still open." And she's like, "But I need this and this." I was like, "Yeah, we open tomorrow at 10." I was like, "I gotta go," and I left. But I'll never forget that. She was like, "Wait," but she was like sticking her head out of her car, like yelling at me, and I was like, "Dude, people were crazy." She was one of those that was wearing like one of those like Darth Vader
The
masks. And she had
respirators,
the
yeah.
respirators. She was
Yeah.
just one of those people, like just out of control. Her name was Cindy. God bless that lady.
Okay, so here's my question then, right? This will be the closer for the segment, I guess. Is do you think okay, so people have no so first of all, I think obviously economically a lot has changed. That's
Yes.
influenced a lot of the people's, behavior, all that kind of stuff. Do you think that we're going to recover from that? Do you think that it's going to be
No.
you don't think
I
so?
think no. I don't think so
Man, that
because
sucks.
I think the last year we've been out of like it's like didn't they wasn't there's this weird thing online that like COVID's over. Like I get that. I get that all the time. COVID's over. Like why it's like people will say like, "Hey, I got COVID. I'm gonna be out for a couple of days." All right, cool. Enjoy your next 3-4 days. And people will say like, people still get COVID. COVID's over. So no, we're not gonna change. It's never gonna change. Not in this lifetime. Maybe 2 or 3 generations from now, it may change.
Well, I
But
mean people. Do you think that people are going to
no,
chill out? You don't think people are going to
no,
chill out?
no. It's
Dang.
it's until this generation and the generation after us the zoomers, they're gone, it'll change. We're all different.
Well,
we're
welcome to the dystopia, people, because that's where we're at.
yeah, that's what it's gonna be.
I don't know, man. Like I've seen more extreme behavior, I think, but also it feels like things are returning to normal-ish, at least up here.
No, man,
Not in LA.
not in LA, not in retail life here. People are still
I
ugly.
hope you're wrong, because I'm going to be optimistic about it, because I think that people still need to live their lives and still need to be happy.
While Penny appears here.
Oh, sup, Katie?
I think she wants food.
All right, let's hit up aliens. The Nazca lines again. So this is some really great aerial footage from the Nazca lines with the open-ended question, how did ancient people build these? The implication, of course, is that aliens built them instead of people.
I think one of my favorite comments is like, isn't there mountains by there?
Oh, the comments on this are great.
Oh my god, it was amazing. I read the stuff. They have mountains and hills. Like you could see all of that, but someone really artistic did it.
Yeah, it's not just that, but I mean some of the comments on here are just straight up fire. But my favorite one was basically, okay, so around the same time the Romans were building aqueducts, and you think people can't build lines in sand? Like it's just like
they're not wrong. Yeah, it's like that. But I mean, they've been there forever. I mean, what type of weather is there too that they haven't?
That's what I was
completely eroded.
Yeah, I was looking into that today because my question was, what level of upkeep do modern people have to do to keep these going? Apparently not much. So apparently it just kind of like hangs around. That's what I saw on my brief look into.
So is it that they put like something down, or is it like carved into the mountain? I think is what it is, right? Like they did it.
Yeah.
I thought it was on the impression that it's like mixed with like salt and something else.
Yeah, hold on. Let me switch over to a YouTube video.
I mean, it's fascinating. They're gargantuous and they're stunning. They're like you can see them from an airplane, and I think that's what's always fascinated people. Be like, well, they didn't have airplanes. Can you truly see it from a mountain?
You can't hear the audio, can you?
No, I can't. No.
Okay. We'll fix that in the near future. So the essential, all right. So I guess we'll cut this out in that super edit. But the essential idea here is that this was just a farming technique, and it's impacted soil, and it's been built up in a way so that mute it so I don't have to hear it. It's impacted soil, so that's it. It's mixed with some stuff, right? And it's just like an ancient technique that they used. So not, it's cool. It's like more in the terms of like historical and archaeology, right, than it is on aliens. But it's just interesting because this keeps cropping up on the alien subreddit. Like, this is just one of those places where people just see it and they're like, aliens. And it's like, is it though? Like, does it have to be aliens? Because it's really, I mean, they just showed, in this picture right here. It's just, it's not, it's not rocket science, it's just like lines in the sand, and there's not a lot going on over there. So it's gorgeous, it's beautiful. Let me start with that, right? Like, it's absolutely gorgeous. I would love to actually see it, just because it is super cool, right? And it's a fun destination place to go check it out. But I think the leap to aliens and the leap that in order to claim that aliens did it, like, yeah, you can claim it, sure, whatever. But why do you have to go there when people could have easily just made these, right? Like,
Well,
it
I think
just
they
didn't make
do it
sense.
is because of the strange designs on it. That it's not any. Some of them are not like animals. Like it's that one weird looking one that like looks like an alien. I think that's why they throw in that whole weird that aliens did this, and one of those animals looks like that. You know, is it like a fire bird or something like that? Prehistoric firebird. Like that's the one that people are like, well, that one kind of looks odd. That looks like a weird looking, spaceship. It looks like a. That's like what, a monkey? There's no monkeys in that area. I mean, what that looks
They
like
look
a
like
dog.
Pokemon to me.
Like, someone could have been high, you know, drinking, you're eating peyote in that area and be like, I'm gonna go out and make some carvings here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It feels
But
like
you're not
people.
telling me that one does not look weird. The one that looks like that one right there. Like it just does not. It's like with someone painting themselves where they do the self-portrait, but that's a strange looking portrait of a person.
Yeah, but I mean, you know,
You could be high doing it.
well, you're also on. If you're making this portrait, right? Like you're on the ground kicking sand or doing whatever it takes to trace out the lines, and then you have to go back to a mountain range to look and see if you did a good job. So it's like, look at this little mouth
I'm not
thing.
saying I could do it, dude, but like I think it's kind of, that one's kind of odd. That's the one that I think looks kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, it looks to me like the guy started off and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do a head," and then started, took a break here, came back the next day, did this thing, and was like, "Ah, crap, that was supposed to be the other head, but I guess that's an arm." Did this, was like, "Oh, it looks like I got boots, even though we don't have boots." Got up here, made a mistake, and was like, "Ah, I think I'm done for the day."
See,
Then
I'm gonna
never came
tell you
back.
what it is. It's like, okay, so the head looks like alien eyes, right? And those look like space boots. And that is his oxygen pack that he's holding, and he's waving hi to us. That's what these alien conspiracy theorists will tell you what it really is, or what they think it is. Right, Penny?
Oh,
You agree?
okay. Here's what I think it is. You kids get off my lawn. You know, like
You're not
clearly,
wrong.
clearly he's telling everyone else to get the hell
Like,
out.
hey, go fuck yourself. He's an Italian Guido over there. Hey, go fuck your mother. That's a
Oh
good
my
one. I
god.
like that.
Yeah, you know what? Great place. I do not think aliens made these. I don't think aliens have to have made them. I think this is
They're the
probably,
original crop circles. That's what they are.
yeah, I think it was just people having a good time, and maybe there's an agricultural aspect to it. Maybe it's just pure art.
It
People.
might be.
I can imagine, if it was done, what was it? Does it say 2,000 years ago? Yeah, 2,000 years ago. You didn't have YouTube. You didn't even have VCRs. You didn't even have, what else didn't you have? You didn't have novels, right? So what do? You go out here, you kick some sand until it looks like a spider. Sounds like a good time to me.
And then say like aliens, the star people came down and created it, make stories and stuff like that.
Is that what the ancient Peruvians say, though?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that it's. Maybe
I've
maybe if there's a
never
claim
heard them
there.
say that, like, yeah, aliens. It's always been like American TV that says like aliens might have created this. It's kind of
That's
weird.
just so disrespectful to like the Peruvians. If they're not making the claim, if it's literally just like ancient aliens that came out and was like, these look really enticing and intricate. Aliens must have made them, instead of like the ancient Peruvians or whatever. It's just,
It could have been, yeah. It might have been ancient aliens that came out with it. So they're like, yeah, it has a weird alien aspect to it.
all right. Well, the last thing on the docket is McCaney Manor. I guess the question is,
So I watched half of it,
okay,
and
great.
half of
That's fine.
it was enough for me to be like, "This is nuts."
Man, absolutely fucking nuts. So we're gonna show just a quick, no sound on this one. This is Russ McKinney. This is his footage that he takes himself for a haunt that he runs, and these are his dogs that he feeds. And I guess, just getting into it a little bit, let's switch over to split screen. This guy's been in the media for a long time. He started off with essentially really, really cool local haunts that involved kids, that included staff, and it just kind of grew and grew and grew, escalated over time to the point where kids weren't allowed into this McKinney Manor. I believe he was out of San Diego at the time. And boy, just recently, tons of information has come out about him through all kinds of different media channels. We've got Reckless Ben's YouTube channel, which is absolutely fantastic, has been doing an expose on McKinney Manor, where he's actually gone in and tried to get through to the modern day version of the manor, which looks like it's just a complete scam. And then you've got a new Hulu documentary that's out that, what was it called, Chris? It's called Monsters.
Yeah, monsters, something in the most haunted house in America, something like that.
Get the title while I'll keep describing it. They basically do a very deep dive on sort of the full history of the manor.
It's called the Monsters Inside America's Most Extreme Haunted House on Hulu.
Yeah. Okay. Watch it if you have an opportunity to, because it is mind-blowing that Russ is able to continue to run this horror shit show. The legality is just insane.
What was it? I mean, even the people said that it's probably even worse than what they experienced, and what it potentially is now is like a tenth of what it is now. Like they experienced a light version of it, right?
Yeah, let's be clear on the timeline here, right? So I think that's an important aspect to this that doesn't really show up in a lot of the overviews of it. Starts off really small, escalates to the point where he's essentially waterboarding people with their consent. So he has a very in-depth consent form. There's a $20,000 prize that's involved if you continue the manor to the point where you've succeeded, where you win the $20,000. However, that probably didn't exist and never really did exist. Russ has gotten thrown out of multiple states. He's transitioned his haunt through multiple iterations. There's a very dark area in the middle of this timeline where he's been filming everything, and he's doing things that are caught on camera that are essentially looking very illegal, according to Reckless Ben, and I think even the documentary gets at that aspect of it, is that you enter in this territory where you can't consent to the things that have happened. However, those videos are just surfacing now, so this is all kind of like an evolving story. And then you run into this post-divorce era where Russ his haunt isn't funded by his ex-wife, where he's been kind of tossed around to multiple locations. I think Tennessee is where he ended up. And all the while he's on a Facebook group filming all this and streaming to a large amount of people who apparently are very cult-like, or let me rephrase that. They're just they have a group herd mentality where they really enjoy this content and they are there for it, right? And so you see an evolution and sort of a de-evolution of Russ's haunt content. It evolved into the point where Reckless Ben has picked up on it, and it's really just they're out in Russ's front yard being verbally abused and humiliated, doing things like trash cans attached to the back, doing jumping jacks, things like that. I mean, this is just mind-blowingly fascinating to me. I remember seeing videos of this way back in the day, right? And thinking that's not something I would want to do. There's a Netflix series called Dark Tourist, where One of the episodes centered around the experience, and I remember watching that thinking, this is crazy that people would want to do that. But there's enough people that have been interested in this and they've gotten to like really extremes. I mean, there's one video that's in, I think it's on Reckless Ben's content, that got surfaced where a man is being dragged behind a truck. There's no way you can consent to that. Like, you're gonna get damaged. And there's lots of claims. This is all on Wikipedia too, so there's like actually like additional sources that come from this, of just people going to the hospital during that middle era of the McCaney Manor. So all these are fantastic breakdowns of the full content, but like to me, the core of this is you've got this guy who's got a legal document that is throwing people off, thinking that they can't sue him or they can't come at him to basically make right the wrongs that he's visited on them. And it's like there's just like, from the legal side, I'm just blown away by this, because it's like at some point he's the only person there that's running some of this stuff. And the real question is okay, what happens if Russ gets hurt and you're trapped in a cage underwater, right? And
it's gonna be like a Saw. That's what it's gonna be like.
It'll be like Saw, but the legal ramifications of that, like, there's no contract, as far as I'm aware of, on the face of the U.S. where you can consent to that scenario. You have to have you have to have things set up in a way, like, yeah, there's some leeway here. People are consenting to being touched. They're being they can consent to those kinds of things. They can't consent to reckless endangerment, which is really the scenario that gets set up in some of these situations. And so it's fascinating to me that he hasn't been sued, number one. It's fascinating to me that he's been able to carry on with everything, number two. And just where does it go from here is what I'm wondering.
It seems like some of his people that are doing it are okay. They're like purposely signing up. And then there's the other group that don't. They're like, I don't ever recommend ever doing this. Like, don't come here. Like, you're making a mistake. And it's like, he's got groupies. Like, some of these girls, they're very attractive, and it's just like, why would they be okay subjected to this type of torture? It's torture. Like, he's torturing people. Like, you look at it, you're like, yeah, this guy's torturing people. And he, like, even the people that are in it that have been tortured say, like, it seems like he gets off by it. Like, that's what his thing is. Like, he gets aroused by it.
Well, I don't know about aroused, because I'm not there, right? But like, yeah, absolutely, he's getting some value out of it, whether that's arousal or it's cognitive. He's excited that, like, oh, I've got these people right where I want them, type thing.
I mean, he's not far away from killing some of these people, is how I feel where he's at. Like, he's like one notch away from like killing people.
Well, here's the thing. I don't actually trust that he knows the difference. I think he's gotten lucky the entire time that he's been running this thing, because, he does have a military background. I believe it was from the Navy. But, when you're waterboarding people, like I said, what happens when you or your staff gets hurt and you're pushing things very, very close, right? And the pushing, and then all of a sudden you've got, like, the person who's administering the waterboarding is hurt, so they can't pull the person out in time. Like, that's reckless endangerment. That's, you're putting people into scenarios where there's no fail safes, or there's no reasonable fail safes, right?
Like, he shouldn't be doing it alone. As I think if he's gonna try to do that and have any type of defense system, he's got to have like check and balances. He's got to have someone, at least 2 or 3 people there. Like, if you're gonna torture somebody like that and do it as like entertainment for the customer or him, like, he's got to have multiple people in it.
Yeah, and there's certain things you just can't consent to, right? Like, you can't consent to getting murdered. You can't consent to getting eaten. right? Like there's certain things that fall out of consent. And what's interesting is apparently he's got like a legal eye. It's just here's the piece that just I don't understand, right? He works at Walmart,
Yeah.
you know? Like like when we're talking about things like legal teams and just none of this stuff I think that's the thing that I think is most fascinating, right? Is you've got this character who, you know, used to be in the Navy, is currently working at Walmart.
I'm surprised Walmart still even has them. Like
That's what I'm
he's like a
saying.
liability. Like, no, you're gone. Like I just surprised like he's still there. Like they know this guy tortures people and the bad publicity that he's getting that he works at Walmart. I mean, I'm surprised he still works there.
I mean, imagine you're his manager. Like,
Yeah, no, be
think about
like,
that, right?
yeah, I'm gonna have to have a call with HR and they're gonna have a little conversation with you and be like, yeah, we're just gonna have to let you go. We can't have any type of negative publicity.
Well, okay, so I mean, this is actually a scenario that you could experience, right? Let's say you hired
Yeah,
someone, right? And it turns out that it's actually Russ McCaney, right? And now he's working for you. And now you've got like YouTubers coming in, buying stuff just from him and filming it. Now you've got people coming in the store and harassing him and other customers because he works there. And also,
yeah, he's
like,
gone. Like he's way problem. He's a
you
super
just,
liability.
yeah.
You're just sorry. It's just we can't have the type of publicity. Like there's a bunch of things that like corporations make you sign. Like you can't pretty much make us look bad, and they make you sign something like that. Like you have to agree to do that, and that's why he falls under this clause. Like he falls under like you can't look. He can't make Walmart look bad. You know, in any type of media, even if he's not actually saying anything negative, he's bringing negative attention to himself.
Yeah, it's a very
It'd be like
strange
that one time when I
situation.
hired the porno star. It was like right away. I was like, yeah, this person's not gonna work out. I need to get rid of him.
Yeah. So I mean, like, what's your take on the matter? Like, do you think? Okay, so I guess here's the important questions. Do you think a haunt like this should exist?
Not at the level that they're doing it. Like they're torturing people. Now, a good, really good haunt where there's no kids, I think should exist. And you do sign a waiver type of thing, but not to the point where like you could die. It's just like, you know, there's certain things that we're gonna do. We're gonna touch you. We may you may feel endangered or you may feel like threatened by it, but at no point are we physically going to hurt you. But we do need you to sign this paper, like that you consent to being put in this type of environment because you are going to feel uncomfortable at some point. I think there should be something at least like that because there's a target audience, you know. But as far as like torturing people, like definitely not. Like something like that should not exist.
Okay, so how about this scenario? You have got a group of people who really enjoy being scared. However, they can't feel scared anymore because of other life experiences that they've had with any other haunt. The only way for them to experience the emotion that they're looking for, the experience that they want to have, they have to be put into situations that other people would consider torture, that other people would consider life-threatening. Do you think that
No,
should exist?
I don't think something like that because there's too much things that could go wrong. There's way too many people be liable for something. It's like I only feel scared and horror if I'm being tortured. Then no, then there's something psychologically wrong with you.
So you
You've
think they
reached
should go
that
to
point.
therapy and not a haunt?
That is not no one wants to be tortured because they like it. They enjoy that type of fear. No, there's something wrong with you.
Well,
There's
there's
something
plenty. I
imbalanced
mean,
with you.
okay, so what about like the BDSM community, right? Because they
I mean,
actually
that's
are
different. I mean, there's different levels of it, right?
there's that. Yes, there are definitely different levels of it
You
for
know,
sure.
there's cosplay of it, you know, like
Yeah.
you know, there's people that like get tied up, and then there's like, you know, complete like getting your ass beat by somebody, you know, and being someone's like slave. You know, there's different levels of that. But even they have safe words, bro.
Oh
They have
yeah.
safe words. And
But
I
the
don't think in this culture, in his culture, there's no safe words. Like it's you quit and that's it. And it's like at any point, if you feel uncomfortable in those communities, you can stop it. And at the point
Mhm.
where you don't stop it, then it's torture. And
Well, another key difference is they are communities of people, right? So there's other people who share their experiences, have, if you're concerned about something that you've gone through with another person, there's a community of people for you to talk with to find out, was this normal, or was this, there's a lot of consent discussion, there's a lot of discussion and just engagement, as opposed to, I think with this particular community, there's a community of watchers, people who watch the content. We didn't discuss the haters, but there are people that are actively trying to shut down the manor because of the reasons that we've talked about. But the difference is that that one community from BDSM tends to be very community based, very group based, whereas this other community tends to be very isolating. Like, and you see that in the documentaries, and you see it
yeah,
in the content. The people have been singled out. They've been threatened with like lawsuits so that they're less likely to speak up. Anytime that they talk about things like Reckless Ben has been highlighting a lot of this stuff, and his channel has gotten struck like several times needlessly and immorally. Like he's clearly been the target of hate that he doesn't deserve. So there's a lot of like silencing, I think, on this side, just to cover up and not engaging that conversation to figure out what works. And I think that that does play into sort of the narrative that Russ is exploiting people rather than providing an experience for them, right? Like the experience is just kind of like, being scared and being, that's all secondary, right? And to Russ's enjoyment of controlling people. So, man, it's a trip though, right?
I mean, yeah, that I didn't even. What was it? I found this out like on Sunday. You're like, have you ever watched this? And I was like, I started watching like half of it. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. Just the whole thing was just like, I can't believe this exists. That it turned into what it was is because he's like, I want to, beat last year. I want to be even scarier. And it got to this point and it turned into something totally different.
Yeah, and just
It's
like,
just a strange thing
I
that
don't know if
it
you got to the
happens.
point in the documentary where they're interviewing the employees who spun off their own separate haunt.
No, I'm at the one where the two ladies just keep talking and how they got to that point and they wanted to quit and the guy started talking about it too, the one that like he
No
like
safe
they were
word. Yeah, and
yeah.
you was explaining them. Yeah, so you're talking about an individual who was being interrogated as part of their experience. They basically tapped out, and if it hadn't been for another employee stepping in, that the person being interrogated probably would have been severely hurt.
The drowning person, right?
Yeah, there's a couple situations, but yeah. Um, so it's I think all the things that are really interesting that make up this story are kind of surrounding it. Why hasn't he been sued? What's the legality? Should something like this exist? Or
Like why hasn't it be stopped? Like there's a problem with it. Like why hasn't it? It's like yeah, they run him out of city, but then
yeah,
he goes
that's what I
somewhere
don't
else and
understand.
sets up and starts all over again. It's just like why will the officials let it get to the point where he's setting it up and he's established, and then once they realize like oh this guy's a problem, and then they run him out again. It's like why even set him up? Like don't even let him have an avenue to even try to continue doing this. Like
Well,
just
that's
shut him
the
down.
thing. Reckless Ben focuses on this tape as being the key piece of evidence to basically show. So here's my understanding, okay, and I could be completely off base on this one. So if I am, I'll bring it up next week. But the whole thing here is that anyone that like tries to do anything against McKinney Manor, their legal team reaches out and finds a way to silence the person. It seems like it's a heavy lift for a person who works at Walmart to have a team, but that's where sort of like the Facebook group comes into play. There's other people that he's like got doing work for him, right? So he's got people who are in basically intimidating people from not pressing charges. Now, I just with how intense some of these experiences are, I don't see how you don't just plow through that with a good lawyer. But then that's where the tape comes in, because there's no physical evidence of any of this stuff happening, or at least that's the claim. But here's what I don't understand. All of this stuff is being live streamed on Facebook. How does Facebook allow this group to exist? Number one, because Facebook shuts down groups for much less all the time. So why is this allowed at all on their platform? Number two, I don't know how far back they save or encode, save their videos from the streams, but they gotta have something. They have to have something. There's no.
I mean, all that stuff stays on there unless the person deletes it.
Does it? I don't know.
There's always been stories that stuff never really gets deleted, and that's why people have problems with Facebook. That it never really truly disappears.
So it seems like that's an avenue where evidence could be procured. However, Reckless Ben did work with some ex-employees to get videos, or a particular video that has, like I said, they've got like a guy getting dragged from a pickup truck, which you can't consent to that. That's reckless endangerment. So I think what's going to end up happening is, definitely if you're listening to us yabber about this, take a look at Reckless Ben's YouTube channel, because he's still making content about this. And I think what's interesting is they're actually struggling with what to do. So
he might not come with anything. Like, it just feels like it's like he's been doing it so long that it's just gonna keep going. I mean, like, how is he funded?
Well,
here's how much money does he really make?
Well, no, and that's where the Reckless Ben portion comes in. This is the tail end of their experience. He doesn't have a haunted house now, apparently. Like, that's what the claim is. That Reckless Ben even got started with this, is that this, right now, you sign up for their haunt. If you get all the way through, it's $20,000. You sign this consent form, and the consent form says, basically, you're going to get subjected to gallons of rats. You're going to get waterboarded. You're going to go over this 2-mile long zip line while bleeding, right? There's all these absurd claims about that. And then when you get into actually do it, he's painting your face. He's strapping a heavy object to your back and making you do jumping jacks and telling you to grovel. And then when you don't comply 100% or at the level that he thinks you need to, he sends you home. And that's the current version of McKinney Manor, is that it's devolved into Reckless Ben's videos
impossible to win, right? Is what it is.
Yeah, it's impossible to win. So you're just going to have that experience. And like, they flew a drone over the property. There's no zip lines. They called the zip line companies. There's no 2-mile long zip lines anywhere in that area or in America, right? There's no rat infrastructure. So like, that's the whole point, I think, of where they started, was like, it's just all bullshit. But when they started digging, they found out, okay, the McKinney Manor has gone through 3 distinct phases. The beginning, where it was kids and it was a haunt. The middle, where they were actually torturing people. And then the end, which is where they're at right now, which is just a bunch of smoke and mirrors. Yeah. So, dude, so fascinating, though.